What does it feel like to enter a dream through Wild? Let's find out. Hey guys, welcome back to Tipharot. It's me Matt here, and today we're talking about Wild, and in particular what it actually feels like to enter a dream using Wild. Now, when you're performing a dream-induced lucid dream, you actually get lucid inside the dream itself, and so it's just a realization that, oh, you're dreaming right now, and then you become lucid, and then you do whatever you want to do. But when you enter a lucid dream from the waking state through Wild, and have a wake-induced lucid dream, then it's very, very different because you're there as the dream is actually forming. And so if you've never had that before, you're probably wondering what that is actually like. So I'm going to do my best to describe what it's like for me. Now, I can't say with 100% certainty that it's the same for absolutely everyone, but this is the way that Wild is for me. So when I've talked about Wild and given instructions on how to do it, I've talked about images appearing behind your closed eyes. And I've said that, you watch the blackness behind your closed eyes and eventually images start to appear. But what do I mean by that? A lot of people will probably think that I mean that you're just going to be watching that black space and then just suddenly you see something. And so some people have followed those instructions and wondered why it's not working. No, for me what actually happens is I start to imagine things. I don't actually start to see anything right away. I just see the blackness behind my closed eyes. I just start to imagine things. And it's not really something that I choose to do either. It's kind of like my mind just drifts off. I'll be focusing on the black space behind my eyes, and then I just start getting caught up in different thoughts, recalling some of my previous dreams, imagining places and locations, and so in my mind's eye, I start to see different images in the sense that I'm imagining these different things. And at first it's just a very, very faint thing, and it will just be brief. I will just have a thought for a couple of seconds about something, and I will kind of see it in my mind's eye, not very clearly. But what starts to happen is I start to get these kind of brief moments where I zone out completely and like a little scene kind of plays out. Like I would just be zoned out in bed and my thoughts will go a little bit weird, like they won't make any sense. And I will see something nonsensical as well, like I would just see a random location for no reason that doesn't even have anything to do with what I'm thinking about. And that is a sign that you're kind of drifting into sleep a little bit. So I get these little flashes and I start to actually see them more than just in my mind's eye. I start not just imagining them, but actually seeing them. And what can start to happen then is that these scenes that I see start to become more and more real until I can see it all around me as if I'm actually there. When that happens, I typically try to interact with the scene in some way. What I usually like to do is I imagine the sensation of my hand running across the surface in the dream. One of my favourites to use is grass, because the sensation of running my hand through the grass is like a very distinct sensation, one that I can easily recall from memory. And so if I see any grass, I just imagine my hand running through it. Eventually my hand is in the dream, and then I can interact with it more and get inside the dream itself. Now that's one way that the process of Wild can play out for me, but there is another way that it can play out. So sometimes I'll be watching that black space behind my eyes, and I will sort of start to make things out in that, dark area. It's like, it's all black, but I can sort of see, outlines of things. Still black, not in colour or anything like that, but I can sort of make out vague outlines. And I'm not talking like, a detailed outline of like the computer screen, or a set of buildings or anything like that. It's very, very vague. It's just, slight differences in the shade of black. And what I start to do is I start to kind of observe those shapes and start to imagine that those could be certain things. Like I will see a kind of vaguely triangular shape, and I might imagine that it's like, a fir tree or something like that, or a Christmas tree. Or I will see a shape that looks sort of like an arm, and I would just imagine that there's a person and I'm seeing their arm. Or I will see what looks to be a light area. That's actually something I see very, very often when doing Wild, is rather than actually seeing a shape of an object, what I will see is kind of like there's light coming in from behind the blackness, just very, very slightly lighter shades. And when I focus on those, it's almost like they get brighter and brighter until it's like the fog kind of clears. And like the blackness starts to shift away and I can start to see some kind of scenery. Like I will see a room, or I will see, a view outside a window. That's a common one because, you're normally associating light coming in from a window or something like that. And so a lot of the time, my vision clears and I see a window there, and I'm in a room somewhere, or I'm outside looking in a window. Another one is, it'll open up and I'll see just some outside area, like a field or something like that. At this point, once again, I try to interact with it. Now, one of the things to keep in mind with both of these processes is that a lot of the time you try to interact with it, or the image gets more and more clear and you feel like you're there, and then it kind of slips away, or it changes into something else. Like, I will watch the black space behind my closed eyes and I will see a kind of light area. And so I'll pay attention to it and it will start getting brighter and brighter, and I'll sort of see this like vague impression of a room, but it's still kind of like it's behind a veil or something like that. And it will seem like it's getting closer and closer, and like the veil is about to, disappear and reveal the room. And then it just kind of starts getting darker and darker again, and I can just see the kind of black space again. And I'll keep doing that process, and then maybe I will see like something that looks like a kind of box shape, and I just pay attention to it. I'm not sure what it is, and the box shape becomes more and more real, and I can see light forming around it, and then I can see, a silhouette of a room, and I can see someone moving in the room, and soon I can actually see the scene. An actual person in a room, there's no veil anymore, I can see all of it in colour, as if I'm actually there. Sometimes it will take several attempts to get to this part, other times it will happen almost instantaneously. I will close my eyes, I will see, a shape, and I will just pay attention to it, and a few seconds later it has turned into a vivid scene that I'm inside. It really depends on how relaxed I am, and also how fresh the recent dreams that I've had are in my memory. You see, if I remember recent dreams, then it's a lot easier to get into another dream. I'm not sure exactly why that is. I guess just because I've come right out of a dream, it's just easy to re-enter that state, kind of like with a dream exit induced lucid dream. And so when I can remember a dream fresh in my memory, the images come to me much, much clearer and much, much quicker. When I haven't remembered the dream, when I've just woken up in REM but I haven't remembered the dream, then it can sometimes take 5, sometimes even 10 minutes of just watching that black space before I actually start to really see anything. So that's been a bit about what wild is actually like for me. If you enjoyed this and you'd like to learn how to have a lucid dream of your own, and you actually want to be taken through all of the steps that you need to go through to actually learn to lucid dream, to actually build skills inside a lucid dream, to spawn objects, to control characters, to create your own dream worlds, and basically have full control over the lucid dreaming experience, then I've made a 14-part lucid dreaming audio course. It's called Advanced Lucidity, and you can find out more about it up there on my Gumroad page. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to subscribe. If you want to support the channel and ensure I can keep making these videos, then be sure to check out my Patreon page. And if you want to keep watching, pick one of the videos on screen, go watch that, and I will see you soon. Take care.